Okay, good morning, everyone, and welcome to our County Council meeting for May 14th, 2020. Welcome, everyone who is watching us today from the video streaming, and we'll do our best, and our staff will do our best to keep that flowing freely. From that point, we have an agenda in front of us, County Council, and when we go through today's agenda, just so those that are watching, because there's quite a few on our screen and I can't see everybody voting, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask for those, any opposed, and if there are, then indicate who they are, and if there's no indication, then I will deem the motion that's on the floor carried. Okay, so from that, we will move forward then, Madam Clerk, with the roll call.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. We have all council members present with the exception of Councillor Gamble.
Okay, thank you for that. All right, moving on then to our agenda then, we have, are there any declaration of pecuniary interest with the county councillors today that's present? Okay, none that are there. Okay, so then for the minutes of April 23rd, Council and Committee Hall minutes, I have it moved by Councillor O'Leary and second by Councillor Hicks, Deputy Warden. That's on the floor. Is there any discussion on those sets of minutes? Okay, are there any opposed? Seeing none, that is carried. We then now move into our County Council closed minute meetings of April 23rd, and I have that moved by Councillor Woodbury, second by Councillor Keaveney. That's on the floor. Is there any discussion? If there is, we'll have to go into camera, but is there any discussion on those sets of minutes? Hearing none. Any opposed? Okay, those minutes are carried. Okay, moving on then, we have the adoption of the Board of Health minutes. And we have that moved by Councillor Patterson and second by Councillor O'Leary. And I don't know,
Mr. Warden, I see Drew Ferguson on for Dr. Era.
Okay. Mr. Ferguson, do you have any comments to those minutes or to that Board of Health report?
No additions to the report. I'm just filling in for Dr. Era. He expects, he had a conflict and he'll be able to join by 10 o'clock. So if you want to hold questions till then, that would be fine. Okay,
Madam Clerk, what would you suggest, Madam Clerk?
Well, I think we'll be done the council minutes, the council agenda well before 10 o'clock. So if there are any questions for Dr. Era, perhaps you can send those to me and we can ask him those at your conference tomorrow.
Or I can take them now if you want and get them back to him.
Okay, well, let me go around the virtual table here and see if there are any comments. I know Deputy Chair Patterson, you're, I don't know if do you have any comments to the Board of Health report or the minutes before I go to questions?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Warden. I can highlight those minutes in the report. And then if there's questions, we can answer. So good morning, Warden and County Council. We adopted the February minutes at the April meeting because our March meeting was canceled due to what was happening with COVID-19. You'll remember everything sort of opened right up at that time. So with the report for March, we talked about the Catch My Breath program, and it's an e-cigarette prevention program. So when schools were operating, the Grey Bruce Health Unit was working with local schools to teach students about vaping so they can make informed decisions. So the program was considered very informative and helpful to both the students and the teachers. And also in the March program report, we spoke about the benefits of immunization and how those immunizations have saved more lives in Canada in the last 50 years than any other health measure. And last year, in 2019, Public Health provided over 10,000 immunizations, and the majority were administered in the schools. And turning to the minutes, we did have a staff presentation about the Ontario Senior Dental Care Program. It included an overview of eligibility requirements, the current locations, and the services that are available. And during that meeting, we talked about the consultation for modernization, which refers to amalgamation of health units and their services. So that was scheduled for the end of March, but is now on hold. And Dr. Era gave a presentation on COVID-19, stating that there is no vaccine, no treatment, the virus may mutate, and there is no previous immunity. And all of that is similar to what we're hearing today. So that's just my highlights. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Patterson. And I'll just echo Dr. Era's comments. Yeah, he was bang on
Right.
all that. We were like, what? Really?
Yeah.
So is there any questions to Councillor Patterson as the vice chair of the Grey Bruce Health Unit? Any questions there? Okay, and again, that was moved by Councillor Patterson and Councillor O'Leary. Is there anybody opposed to that resolution on the floor? Seeing none, that is carried. Okay, so then we have 4 bylaws here, and okay, there is no closed meeting matters, so I'll pass that number 6. So number 7, there are 4 bylaws, and I have it moved by Councillor Desai and Councillor Klumpus. I guess I should have asked first, are any of those bylaws wish to be pulled separately for a separate discussion? Anybody wish to pull those separately? Okay, so that motion is on the floor then. Is there any discussion on any of those bylaws? 83, 84, 85, and 86. Okay, seeing I hear nothing out there. Is there anybody opposed to that resolution? Okay, those bylaws are carried. So then moving on then to the very important part of this agenda is the adjournment, and that's moved by Councillor Hicks and second by Councillor Hutchinson.
Mr. Warden,
sorry,
if I could, I wanted to talk a little bit about some good news and celebrations, if I had your permission.
Well, Madam Clerk, I know we generally have this part on our agenda. We haven't had it on for a few meetings, but I will allow it if the clerk will allow me to have that if it's not too lengthy, or we went through our agenda. I know we used to have this part as good news and celebrations, and we are always looking for good news and celebrations. Madam Clerk, can you?
I have no concern with that.
Okay, go ahead, Councillor Desai.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. So I just wanted to bring some positive news to County Council. I'm part of a group of young people called the Rotaract Highlanders, and we're located in Markdale and Grey Highlands. And over the past couple of weeks, we've been doing a fundraiser for the Chapman House Hospice. As we all know, the hospice is funded mainly by donations and fundraisers. And due to COVID-19, they're looking at having to cancel their 2 biggest fundraisers, which is the Hike for Hospice and their annual dinner gala. So we started our online fundraiser on May 1st, and it goes on until May 19th, and it's basically 19 days of fundraising during COVID-19. And as of 8 p.m. yesterday, which was the 13th day of fundraising, as a group, we've raised $11,410, which all goes towards Chapman House. There's 7 of us who've basically volunteered as tributes, and the fun part of this fundraiser, I guess, is whichever tribute raises the least amount of money has to produce a music video. If you go onto Facebook, there's a poll on which song the person would have to sing. Right now, Can't Touch This by MC Hammer is in the lead with Are You Lonesome Tonight by Elvis Presley in distant second. If you do choose to go for a vote on that, please pick Are You Lonesome Tonight by Elvis Presley, because it would be very fun to see someone sing that. And also, if you go onto Facebook and search for Song for Hospice, the group comes up, and there's details on it if you want to get involved with the fundraisers. There's details on there, and all the tributes have been producing videos as to why you should donate to their campaign, which are pretty hilarious and fun. So I do hope you guys check it out, and I just wanted to bring that because it's been a time of change and a time of sort of news that isn't necessarily positive. So I just wanted to bring some positivity to our council today. Thank you, Mr. Warden.
Well, thank you for raising that up. And do you have a goal to the amount you want to raise?
So when we started out, we thought if we got to 10,000, it'd be great. And then we got to 10,000 by, I think it was day 9, day 8 or day 9 that we had 10,000. So at this point, we're trying to raise as much as we can, especially because it's for a tremendous cause. And honestly, as a club, there's no cost for us to run this campaign. So any donations that come in go straight to Chapman House.
So I presume that you're soliciting county council to donate to the Councillor Desai Fund?
I'm not saying that. But if council so chooses, I wouldn't say no to that either.
I know you want to sing. Okay. Any comments to that from county councillors? Good on you, Councillor Desai, for fantastic thumbs up. Since we open up the opportunity for good news and celebrations, is there anybody else wish to bring any good news and celebrations or points out there?
I just had one comment, Mr. Warden, and it referred to Mr. Councillor Desai's brief presentation there. I would encourage everybody to donate to the fund, but not to Desai's fund, because I would love to see him sing online.
Clearly, you haven't come out karaokeing with me.
Yes.
I've heard you sing before, Mr. Desai.
He likes the one about the teddy bear. Okay. Any other good news and celebrations from any other county councillors or staff? Anything, Kim? Any good news from you?
I think our greatest good news is that we continue to be COVID-free in our long-term care facilities, pending the results of this week's testing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's fantastic news. And again, a big shout out to Dr. Era and his staff. And please take that back, Drew, in the sense of we're so quite happy of what's happening here in Grey Bruce. And it's all from the hard work of everybody, as everybody's working together as a team. And we've got to keep passing that message on that, keep us in good shape here in Grey Bruce.
Mr. Warden, I see that Dr. Era is now online. Would it be appropriate for him to have a few comments at this point?
Absolutely. Dr. Era, do you have any comments you wish to bring forward? We're talking about good news and celebrations, but I know that, I don't know if you wish to brief County Council. I know you've been quite busy, and I know that from our meeting last week with the mayors of both Grey and Bruce, and with regards to the beaches, I don't know if you wish to speak to that or not, or any other information. Go ahead, Dr. Era.
Certainly. Thank you, Mr. Warden and Council. I apologize, I was 10 minutes late for a related subject related to the beach closure. So it's definitely to be celebrated. We have 0 cases in Grey Bruce, and we are the only health unit, to my knowledge, that has 0 cases. We have 0 hospitalization. We have a total of 4 long-term care outbreaks. 2 of them have resolved. The other 2 have a total of only 3 patients. None of them has any symptoms, which is all in all stands as an excellent result relative to what the situation could be, or relative to other parts of the province. To keep it that way, to work hard to keep it that way, we have in public health communicated with different political leaders, including yourself and others around Grey Bruce, and I advocated for inter-provincial travel restriction through closing beaches. As you know, we have a population of 166,000. However, over the 5-month season, we receive over 2.2 million people. So if we do the math, that's more than doubling of our population. And that is quite the change in the demography of Grey Bruce. And we have been very successful in ensuring compliance and excellent results. It might be more difficult to manage communication with the new arrival, or the new subpopulation, if we can call it. And I think of it of three categories: our residents as subpopulation, the cottagers as a second, and the one-day visitor as a third. The first one, we know that we have the appropriate recommendation and messaging that has worked. The second subpopulation, cottagers, I have no reason to believe that the same recommendation would not work with them. Rather, it probably within 2 weeks estimate, we can bring them up to the same level of compliance that our residents have. The third subpopulation is the tricky one, just because by definition, they arrive on one day and they leave on the same day. So most people come to vacation, whether it's to the beach or any other activity, the last thing on their mind is to listen to the MOH or the ministry about recommendation. And if we manage by some means to reach to this population or subpopulation, by next day there is another group. So it was full support from all political municipal leaders in Grey Bruce to close beaches. And that is the direction that I proceeded to communicate with different stakeholders, whether it's the chief of police, chief of fire, the MPPs, the chief MOH. Throughout, there was full support. There was, over the weekend, the announcement from the ministry of opening provincial parks. It took me around 24 hours to actually get confirmation directly from the minister from one of the ministers that the Minister of Environment has only open trails on provincial parks. Beaches are closed, campgrounds are closed, amenities are closed. So with that, we obtained legal and support from the solicitor from Grey. Many thanks to his experience and your will to share his experience. And an order will be issued later today. It will be in effect tomorrow. So the reason to have the effect date tomorrow is to give the different stakeholders enough time to adjust their processes to have the order executed. And the order, the most favorable route or legal vehicle to ensure closure of beaches is practical is through an order from the MOH office directly to municipalities, not to individuals, to require closure of beaches. And this would allow the municipalities to utilize police services to enforce. And the enforcement could be two-pronged approach, one through the Trespass Act, and the second one through charges built in any municipal bylaw if the municipality wishes to have that bylaw issued. I'll be more than happy to connect you with our legal to provide that legal opinion. I have it in writing for our board, and I don't profess to be able to answer all the legal questions, but that's my understanding. Those are the vehicle and the two routes of enforcement. To my delight, all chiefs of police are supportive of this, including the OPP, and it should be a good public health intervention for the coming 2 weeks to reduce the travel to our area from one-day visitor. I also managed to secure an interview with CBC tomorrow morning, Friday morning, to ensure this message would go to the cities where these people come from, since our local media might not reach that far. The order is to be for 2 weeks with possibility of extension, or it could be just until it's rescinded. The plan is to, this is the final decision that I will have to consult with the chair of the board and the vice today to finalize it. The goal of having short period of time, whether announced in order or not, is to allow us to be aligned with the ministry if the ministry changes direction in the future. So if we go with 1 month and the ministry changes in 2 weeks, we will have misalignment for 2 weeks. And the optics of it might not be helpful to ensure the appropriate level of trust from the public, whether in public health or the ministry or both. So the short period of duration, if it is implemented in order, would be because of this reason. I'm open for any question, Mr. Warden, from the group, or later if you wish to connect with me, I'm open as well.
I know you're always available, and I know you and I have hooked up at different times of morning, day, or night. So thank you very much for that report, Dr. Era. And I know that meeting we had last week included the mayors, and I don't know if any of the deputy mayors have any questions to that. That was a joint meeting with both the mayors from Gray and Bruce. And I know that I think Councillor Robinson and maybe Councillor Patterson, I think you maybe had a conflict. I don't know if you guys have any questions from that meeting last week. But if you do, I'll open up the floor. Are there any questions to Dr. Era, or more specifically about the closure of beaches? I hear none. So I guess, Dr. Era, I guess if you're going to be on CBC tomorrow morning, I presume that's with Wei Chan, maybe CBC morning. And I guess we'll all be, do you know what time you're going to be on?
7:15 morning drive.
7:15. Okay, so that's a good, everybody, if you wish to listen in. Our local area is 98.7 is the CBC number for this area, and or 99.1 is maybe another one that picks up this local region, and it seems to be interesting to listen in. I don't know, Madam CEO, do you have anything to add? I know Dr. Era used the services of our solicitor to seek out the legal part of this. I don't know. I'm not asking you to speak. I just wonder if you have anything to add or.
No, I think that as Dr. Era rightly points out, the communication across multiple channels is really critical to getting the message out and received by folks. Rob Hatton and the folks in communications here have been developing some messaging to go out over our social media channels. You know, it's so important to strike the right tone with this. We want people to comply and, you know, and do that for all of the right reasons. So I'm really grateful for the opportunity for everybody to have conversations, to think through what the right messaging is, and everybody kind of working together, going in the same direction. So hopefully we can have a good outcome and still a good long weekend.
Thank you, Madam. Thank you, Madam CEO. And just to reiterate that from our meeting last week, came out from a smaller meeting with myself and Warden Tulin and Dr. Era and the MPs from the local area. And we thought it was very important to have that meeting, both between the leaders of Gray and Bruce, to have a unified message. And that all goes back to what Dr. Era is saying is it's all about the messaging and communication and having that all unified across both counties. And both, as he said earlier on, is we've been very low in the numbers and we want to keep it that way. And also Dr. Era and I were talking briefly last night, and with this weekend coming up as the long weekend, there's always that delay of if there is contraction or whatever, or infection or whatever into our region, it'll be a delay before we see that. So we're trying to control that as best we can. And again, it's try to limit the day trippers, and like where the tourism part is not open for business at this particular time. And but people will be coming into our region, as we know it is a long weekend. So any last comments, or anybody have anything they wish to share with Dr. Era, or any queries? He did say that he's always available if you have an inquiry, so he's good.
Well, Mr. Chair.
Madam, okay, Councillor Robinson.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. I do want to say that I was in attendance at last Friday's joint meeting with Gray and Bruce mayors, along with Dr. Era, and I have to tell you, I found that to be a very informative meeting. I felt that there was a lot of work that took place and path forward in order to represent our citizens. So if there's an opportunity for additional joint meetings along that line, I would certainly support that. I found that to be an effective meeting. Thank you. And thank you, Dr. Era.
Okay, thanks for that, Councillor Robinson. And I thought, yeah, you know, there's opportunities through the future of having those joint meetings, because we're very much aligned with Gray and Bruce. And thank you very much for those comments. And, you know, maybe every couple of weeks or whatever, just to have that all together. And it was very beneficial that way for sure. Okay, so I hear, I see no more comments. Is there any last call for any good news and celebrations out there? All right, so then we have it moved by Councillor Hicks and second by Councillor Hutchison that we adjourn this meeting. Any opposed to that? Hearing none, that is carried. So we're moving on now.